So y'all might look at that. Yeah, I really don't know exactly what all it is.
Okay, so I've started recording all the stuff. So I'm recording whatever shows up in my Chrome window. So it may be a little bit weird for me to display or show anything. So, which is okay, but
So yeah, I don't know if this is useful for a robot or not, but it may be. So that they had on a drone, so and those are the two things I know of right now. I haven't really done much. In my case, I was 4th of July type stuff, so I haven't really done much else. I went to, oh,
Oh, I got a couple of things I saw too that popped up. One of them just popped up today. In fact, I'll put the link in the chat. It's basically an Arduino library to take CAN bus the serial. So essentially, you can create as many CAN buses, as many serial ports as you want because they're basically CAN bus channels, to understand it right. Anyway, it looked pretty interesting. I'm going to play around with it. Here's the link. Putting it in there. Throw a title to it too. And anyway, that was one thing. And then I put some. I've been looking to see if everybody's been getting their mail from the mailing list. Is anybody? I sent out a mail this week about a robot kit that was had some of the features of pearls. Did anybody get? If you got it, raise your hand. Did everybody get it? Okay, anybody not get it?
When did you send it?
Probably a couple of days ago. So David, you're not getting it, and Ray, you're not getting it.
I may not
Yeah.
be either. So let me check.
I have no idea because I haven't looked. So
Okay. Yeah, I noticed that a lot of people had been basically kicked off the link for excessive rebounds or something, and so I tried to fix. I'm sorry, Ed, I didn't get it.
Bounce back, I think is what the email said. Too many bounce backs, or
Yeah. So Ed, are you kicked off the list too? I
Yes.
tried to put every. Okay. I'll get. I went through and everybody I could, recognize because I was kicked off the list too. So I went ahead and I didn't even know I was. So I went back and put me back in the link. We'll see if there is some definite underlying problem. Then we'll probably get kicked off again, and I'll have to figure out what that is. All right, so
Doug,
yeah.
Steve here. Is this Hackaday robot similar in concept to Carl's?
It's called. Yeah, give me a second. I'll put the link in here. But wait a minute, I want to just make sure. If you didn't get a message from me, or you might have got it from DPRG secretary, that showed a robot kit. I got David, Ray, Ed.
Actually, I just looked at it. It's in there. I haven't read it. But
Okay, you got
I did get
one.
it.
I'm looking
Harold.
for it. I'm looking for it. We'll see.
Get that fixed. Chris, you got it?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. But anyway, that was I gotta admit, I was sort of surprised at the price of it. It was $199. I mean, I know that's a lot of money. It is a lot of money. But if somebody wanted to get an OpenCV kit, you have to supply your own Raspberry Pi. And you might have to, I think it comes with the camera.
Okay, Doug, I did get it. There you go.
Okay. Okay, Dave got it. Okay. So I gotta look for Ed, Mark, and Harold.
Yeah, I got it. I got it. I
Okay.
just didn't see it. I got it. It's in my email.
Okay.
So
So Ed, are you the lone ranger who didn't get it?
So is that the DPRG digest that you're talking about?
Well, if you're set up for digest, what happens is instead of getting uh, every message that comes through the list, you get a conglomeration of all the messages on the list once a week, I believe. That's a setting you have to set. So you can go onto the website, and there's a link in there. Can't remember exactly where it is, where you can go to the mailing list and alter your settings. So I personally don't like the digest because
Me neither.
you get it too late. I realize everybody's finished talking about it by the time you get what they're talking about. So I'd rather have just a message because we don't spam that much. Ours has been really good about that. All right, I'll put that link in. That's pretty much like John. I've been supposedly 4th of July and this weekend with family. But I am clearing the decks because I'm definitely wanting to get started on Robo Columbus. That's the big one. Now's the time. And so one of the things, this CAN bus thing just kind of like fell into school. That's exactly what I'd like to do. I don't know if I want to do it on an Arduino. I might want to do it on an ARM chip, but the whole concept of having some way to uh, communicate, especially I squared C stuff, I'd like to be able to get it. I'm not sure. This might end up into instead of 2 kit processors, you got 6 processors. I don't know. I'll have to figure out
you have it built into your micro, it's nice, right? If let's say you're building a robot out of a handful of, STM32 parts, then it's nice because you got the can built into the micro.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go. I don't know if I probably, because I have one of the boards that David and the other gentleman, I can't think of his name right now, the guy that did our simulations for us, Ron. David and Ron created basically a motherboard for a STM Nucleo type board. And I did get one copy of it. I'm going to give it a try and see if I can actually get that into my rover this year. So
If it's a new enough STM32, it'll actually support CAN FD, CAN flexible data, which is sort of the same thing, except it allows you to send bigger messages, right? Which again, it can be annoying with CAN that you're limited to these short messages. And CAN FD lets you send 64-byte messages instead of just 8-byte messages. It also lets you go faster. Which really at the short distances, it's almost not going to make that much of a difference. But at longer distances, it would let you go faster than regular CAN. But the bigger messages can be a convenient factor and cut back on a bit of overhead, because every CAN message, you have like almost 4 bytes worth of sort of overhead, actually, maybe even slightly more than 4 bytes. It adds up to a lot more. And so you have these tiny messages with, and with a fair amount of header kind of overhead. And so you're not really using your full whatever bit rate you're running it at, there's some amount of overhead there. And CAN-FD has essentially less of that because you can send bigger messages.
just to make sure I'm understanding what you say, it's CANSB.
Now, F as in Frank, D as in Delta.
Boy, did I miss that out? Oh, here's
Sorry.
yours. Okay. Thanks. Yeah. Okay, well, thanks, Chris. That was great help. I'm ready to pass it on to somebody. Anybody else got anything they want to talk? It's going to be slow. It's going to be short, guys, if nobody talks.
Well, I had a question, an electrical question.
Okay.
We talked last week about maybe separating out my power for the Arduino from the power to the motor board. And of course, that's to cut down noise, I hope. But I got to thinking, I'd read somewhere that capacitors cut down noise.
Yes.
So
that capacitor is, you have to be careful because, yes, the answer is yes, but there's always the but. The capacitive load on regulators can screw them up. Okay, so it's one of those things that for us as hobbyists, you'd probably just stick the capacitor on and it worked. But if it didn't, you'd say, that didn't work.
yeah.
But I'm not so worried about you're using an Arduino, right?
I have an Arduino and a Pi, but the Arduino is the one that'll be tandem in with the board.
Well, both of the, if you plug in, since you're using a battery bus of 12 or 15 volts, I can't remember. If you plug it into the ports that are on the board so that it's fed directly through each of those boards has its own regulator. And that gives you a little bit of noise. All right.
Okay.
You don't have to, it's not such a big deal. The bigger things is if you have what I'd call bus disruptors. Like when you,
Motor drivers.
yeah, or or a good example is a ping. Okay, so ping's just sitting there most of the time doing diddly, and then all of a sudden, you ask it to trigger, and it goes out there and makes the biggest voltage pulse it can and goes, whoop, and your bus goes, so, you know, I mean, it's those sort of things that you have to wear. Servos, ultrasonics, you know, you don't want, for example, you don't probably want to use the 5 volts that's supplied on an Arduino board to supply an ultrasonic unless you absolutely have to.
I was gonna get.
There's a lot of little kit. There's a lot of little kits that do that. Okay, but it'd be better to have, you know, a 5 volt supply to handle those noisy things. And that doesn't mean you know, the signal can go to your Arduino with no issue. I'm just talking about the power supply. You know, okay, and you know, like for example,
Again. And just FYI, this 12 volt is not going to be in this robot, so the 9 volt is going to the
okay.
control.
Well, now when you get it 9 volts, I think you're sufficient. But if you're saying, well, it's going to be between 9 and 7 volts, then you got to start worrying about your regulators dropping out.
Yeah,
Because each regulator has a dropout voltage. And I want to say that for the Arduino one, I can't remember what it is, an 8015 or something like that, it's about a volt.
Oh, it's like a 1117. It's a real.
Yeah, it's about a volt. About a volt. Yeah, you're right. Right, it's 11117. And but that's about a volt drop. So, you know, you see a lot of our little Arduino kits where they've got, you look at it and they have 6 volts. 6 volts on the, you know, 4 batteries. And they're feeding it into the start through the plug that's on the Arduino. And you know you'll get a little, you know, four battery case, and on the end of it there'll be an Arduino plug. So you mount that, you plug in the Arduino into your thing. Well, you got 6 volts to start with. You're going through the regulator, which pops out another one, which makes you marginal. Can it work? Yeah, it can, but it, you know, you're really on the edge there.
So just to make sure I understood that little tidbit, coming out of my diagram, I got the 9 volts going into the Arduino plug. You're saying that's giving the Arduino 8 volts?
No, wait a minute, hold on, I'm sorry. Okay. All right, let me look at this. So you're using a 9 volt step down?
Right. From this 18 that starts here. So
Yeah,
this,
I'm trying to think. I'm not sure.
yeah, it probably doesn't matter because the Arduino is rated to handle it.
Yeah, well, I've looked at the 1117, and now that I think about it, I want to say it's either 12 or 14 volts. So 18 volts might be a little bit much for it.
Right, that's why I'm stepping it down.
Okay. So here you're regulating.
Yeah.
So
See,
that's
this 12 volt regulator is not going to be in this robot. So there's going to be a line from the 9 volts to the motor and 9 volts to the Arduino. Now,
all out of the same 9 volt step down regulator.
right. It's a polo loop step down regulator. I forget what they call it specifically.
So you know, you need to look at your motors in terms of stall current. All right, because you're using those little yellow TT motors.
No, this particular Robbie robot, I think it had some old 6 volt motors in it. I've been running them with 2 of the 18650s, which are combined to 7.2, I think.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to bump that up to 9 with this regulator, and I'm hoping I'm not going to burn them out. I'm not going to run them at full speed.
Okay. Yeah, you know, you just have to be careful. For example, a lot of times you'll see a motor with a rated current of like an amp. Okay, but they'll have a stall current of 6 amps, and this will collapse probably. I don't know how long, what your 9 volt rate step down regulator is.
That fuse has got 6 amps, so it won't kick out until then.
So I'm just saying, there you just have to kind of
Yeah.
make sure everything's you gotta have I guess the proper engineering term is a power budget. You have to work through it. But there's no, you know, okay, well,
Yeah, I was mostly concerned about any noise between the motor controller and the Arduino. And then over here, I've got the Raspberry Pi kind of using the same 5 volts as the SR04.
well, okay, now there you have to be, okay,
They're in
the Raspberry Pi, the Raspberry Pi uses 5 volts. And it's, I want to say if you're using a 4, it's considerable, I think. God, that's what it is. It's it's a big current. It's a big current log. I can't remember.
Yeah, the 4, because I've been watching that. The 4 will use up to almost 2 amps, but when I'm watching it on my robot, if it's not doing a whole lot of stuff, we're hanging out about an amp.
Okay.
Maybe we
I'm
go,
just saying.
maybe we go up to 1.2 if I get real busy, but at startup it will draw a pretty good amount. But an amp is what you got to plan for sure.
So I like the idea that you're having the Raspberry Pi on a separate supply, and like I say, the 9-volt step down is just to keep it from being 18 volts. The regulator on the actual Arduino board would be okay. I don't like those SR04s all being powered on the Arduino board.
They're not powered on their Arduino. They just have their controlling wires. The power is coming from the 5 volts.
Okay, but they're on the same board with the Raspberry Pi.
Right. They're in this screw terminal, so they'll both be coming off of that 5 volts.
How are you feeding the Raspberry Pi? Is it the 5 volts actually going into the plug on the Raspberry Pi? Or are you using a pin to
I think I'm going to use the pin. I hadn't fully decided.
Well, I think that bypasses the regulator. You want to be careful there. If it's bypassing the regulator, I wouldn't recommend that because those SR04s are going to be bouncing the bus line.
That's what I was afraid of.
I would suggest using a separate regulator.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know. That's kind of where I was getting at because I thought, well, I could just put a capacitor on there, but that's probably not good.
Well, like I say, it's one of those things that unless you know a little bit more about the regulators and stuff and how they're designed. I mean,
But it's kind of risky.
yeah, the traditional way was, just put a capacitor across it and it would always work. But that's before we started doing switching power supplies and all sorts of good stuff.
Okay, well, cool. I'm going to stop sharing and release my time if nobody has anything else.
Okay.
Next.
Questions for, I guess, whatever it's going to be called, Robo Magellan / Columbus /
Yeah, it's Robo Columbus.
Robo Columbus. Okay.
Yeah.
No one's using GPS RTK for that, right? They're just relying on grenade.
I want to say
GPS.
I want to say last year that Kareem did,
Oh, Kareem did. Okay.
or at least he was planning on doing it. I don't know if he actually did it on the field
Yeah.
because his robot was a little bit last minute, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And we changed the rules to make it legal, right? So
Okay.
so you can set up a base station if you want to.
Mm. I mean, it'll get you to, for the modules that I have, 1.5 centimeters.
Mm-hmm.
If you get, the RTK fixed, status. But, I mean, that means that you'd be that far away from the cone. So if you can't find the cone at that point.
Well, yeah, you probably have more error in your actual. I think the cone is here. Do you know what I'm saying? You think the cone is here. and the cone isn't really exactly there, it's over there, over there
Yeah.
somewhere. And so you really, you drive to the wrong spot.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, that would be a possibility. The other thing, I think the real trick on that is the data merging. How do you, otherwise, you just take the GPS, turn it into a coordinate, and, that's one way. I know I've seen it done that way successfully. But what you would really kind of like to see it do is, is it work with the other parts, your IMU and whatnot.
Oh, yeah. Odometry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other thing too is, I don't think you need that.
RTK.
I don't think you need RTK for.
Yeah. No.
I think the bigger problems are, getting a robot to drive to the cone. And otherwise you don't care. I mean, Scott and David, they've gotten perfect scores in the past several times, and they just use, and I think David uses something that's, almost got a tool chain on it on his. I mean, he's got a really rusty, dusty GPS. I mean, it's no Garmin from, 1990s or something. So, I don't know if it's needed. Now, it's cool. Yeah, it's cool. That's why we want to see it done.
Yeah, I think I want to say just using regular GPS, it depends on what they're setting those waypoints to. If you don't use GPS RTK, I don't think it gives you enough digits to be used in with in RTK mode. So because it's what is it? I think they said 3 meters versus, for my modules, I think it's either 1.5 or 2 centimeters, which is just under an inch. Centimeters.
That's why I think data integration with the other items is the key. Because, the problem with normal GPS is you're here, you're coming to the cone, you're coming, and all of a sudden it tells you you're over here. And then it says, whoops, no, you're really over here. No, you're up over here. It's those fluctuating readings that throw you for a loop. So if you have something to rationalize it, something that says, nope, you couldn't be that. You couldn't have instantaneously jumped 10 yards. That's not possible. And so ignore that point and let's get another one. That's what you kind of, and while you're doing it, just use your IMU and stuff to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if Green had some of the GPS modules with dead reckoning built in. I don't know if he used it or not, though. So it's more or less a GPS setup with an IMU built into it.
Yeah.
It's one of the U-Blocks modules.
Yeah, I think that's one of the newest ones. Otherwise, the U-Blocks sort of went from a GPS to a GPS with separate mounted magnetometer, and then for cars they kind of went in with some sort of merged with IMU type thing. So that is a possibility, and they're not that expensive because they're used in cars. Since they're used in cars, the part and the little boards you can buy from China or wherever, they're not that super expensive for the newest U-Block.
Yeah.
So, yep. But I'm not planning on using the newest one. I'm going to continue to use the same old one. I got other problems that are bigger than that one. Wheels rolling.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, platform's totally untested. Who knows what it's going to do on the actual day of the contest? It may just
Well,
and in circles, you know.
yeah. Raj, are you going to be in this year's Robo Columbus?
What's the date?
Are you going to be in this year's Robo Columbus?
I want to be. What's the date? I have a travel planned in November.
Yeah.
If it's in October, yes.
Okay.
Is it in October?
I don't remember where we are now. I'd have to look at the website.
It's October, November.
Yeah, it's somewhere in October, November.
Yeah, it was October or something.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll be working on this. Not last time. Okay.
Okay.
So I got this last year. Looking it apart, I've had some fun time playing with this crawler, and yeah, it's got this food steering on both sides.
I like that.
So I'm gonna be. I got all the parts. I need to start working on this. I think I have all the parts. What else? Mostly the motor drivers is what I got, and then I have all the compute required. Cameras and Jetson too. We'll see on that.
Okay. You might have to worry a little bit about weight then, because
This is pretty torquey. It's used to climb on things.
yeah,
It goes slow and it's got good torque.
yeah, great.
Assuming if I put some load on it, I could still be able to carry it. To print some custom parts to make a platform on top of it. The
Mhm.
platform isn't pretty good to mount anything on it, so
Not too bad. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I think yeah, but I think it's still in flux, guys. I think we haven't found a date where everybody can go, and we know. I can't remember exactly. I don't know if it's a NASCAR event or a basketball event or something. That
I think what's his name?
yeah,
So we hosted last time.
yes,
Steve.
Steve,
Yeah.
yes. Steve was mentioning something about F1.
F1. Yeah, that weekend is off for sure. I guess so. We have to plan around that.
Mhm.
Okay, well, I gotta go fix that and get us a date. All right, so yeah, I'll probably send out a survey next week because I know there's people who can't go in October and there's people who can't go in November, and we just gotta find out kind of like what the best date for everybody. Hopefully work it out. All right. Who's next?
I suppose I can go.
Okay.
Suppose that needs to go away now. Oh, okay. So let's see here. Oh, need to post a link in the chat.
Okay.
And this is a Hackaday thing, but there's like tons of videos and stuff going in it. I'm sure if you have not heard of the word or the guy by the name of Zach Friedman or Voidstar Labs, you're probably doing yourself a disservice. One, he's entertaining as all get out when he's doing his videos. He's making YouTube videos. He's also a Twitch streamer. He's also a Twitch streamer, so you can watch him doing this live, or doing some of this live anyways.
And he lives near me down in Colorado.
Does he?
Yep.
Yeah, so really funny guy. I would dare say that I got about 3/4 of all his references in his videos, and I know for sure there's only a handful of people that are ever going to get a couple of those references, and I got 1 or 2 of them. So he's does a bunch of crazy stuff, and so what what he's done is he's come up with this thing called the Gridfinity system, which is what I sent a link to. What he's going through is because he hates. He's like, how can you build things faster? Now with me, it's just going to be crazy, but it's going to help me in a lot of ways because I got this brand new. Let me see if I can show it off here. U.S. General from, as he likes to say, horrible freight. Cart that I'm making a side thing. So it's just so you know, this is my desktop that you've seen a bunch of times. It's even, well, it's actually less disarray than it was before because I've been cleaning on it, but you still can't tell that I've been cleaning on it. All of this is going to, this is my desktop. So all this is going to the side over here where I've got, this is where I said I needed to wait to get to the computer to actually do the recording. So I've got the O-scope, power supply, all the other things that I would actually need to work with stuff and tools going onto this cart. And so my desk workspace will be more free for larger, bigger things. And so what he did was to make things better for himself was he came up with this Gridfinity system. Now, these are all 3D printed, 3D printable things. Most of them do not require any support, whatever. This is one of the modules. All the modules fit into this system. That still has some support left on there because I was seeing if it's worked. So fits right in there, stays in there pretty good. There's a bunch of satisfying stuff that goes on. Goes right in there. I've got a whole bunch of them up at the top that I've started working with. If I can get over here, come on, before I'm working on getting. So, he really. So he came up with this for holding on to your X-Acto knife. The idea of getting things easily at your hand so you just pick it up what you want. He put a parametric file out there in Fusion, so I loaded this in, changed it a little bit, printed out for the heavy duty handle I care about, place to store the blades you care about. I've been exploring this. So what this is, if you look underneath on top of this thing here I printed a long time ago, I have this with some double-sided tape stuck down on it. And so all these things are now stuck in and they're there. They're not moving. They're thick enough where they don't come out very often, very quickly, very easily. And he's got a weighted base and some magnets if you want to get really crazy with them. All of it's free and available if you go to the Gridfinity thing on Thangs, THAGS. And I got a basket full of gunky junk, which I'm not sure what I want to do with the gunky stuff at the moment. All my little screwdrivers in there for my precision stuff. Lots of markers and things. I'm eventually going to do, I'm working on this to figure out what I want to do with my soldering stuff and that kind of thing. And I'll have this space here for doing other stuff. Here's another example of one of the modules that seems to work pretty good. Is these snippers and things. You can see it. You can go right on it, so you can pick it up. This is some of his modules. Like I think I'm going to do some of this noise. So the idea behind that is that a lot of times some of these screwdriver things have the pointy bits stuck in right at you, and you got to go grab it and avoid the pointy bits to go grab some. So usually some of that's stuck that way, and that's not good. And so he goes through a bunch of these things. People have taken this over. There's probably a couple of hundred of these modules that people have grabbed his Fusion 360 designs on it, his base level design, they started putting together. In fact, I've done this entire, don't know what I'm going to do with this drawer down here yet, but I've printed enough of these things where I've got this entire drawer down here Gridfinity'd up to be able to push and pop these things and take them off. You can put them down harder if you want to with some tape or whatever it is you want to go do. Currently, I'm in the process of, I like these Allen wrenches as far as I've already got a container. So they have a bunch of modules out here that throw away this container. And I go, well, sometimes I travel with this thing So I want to keep my container because I think it works well. So I'm going to get a base module in here and find a couple of those modules that you'll have one. I don't have one close at the moment. A couple of those modules that I'm going to make this end here a slot and slot a couple of those things in it so I can read the numbers of what I'm looking for, pull out my Allen wrench, put this thing back in, use the Allen wrench, and hopefully put it back. What now? What you got there, Doug? Or are you showing
I
up?
got the same thing.
You got the same thing? Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just nice. It's
And
nice to
you
compete.
can't, I to be interested in a solution to hang them. Right now, you know, I tried a little hook on the back and it wasn't strong enough.
Yeah.
So, because I use a pegboard for most of my basic tools. And these, I just end up putting flat on the desk
And this is
because
sort-
I have
this is-
no good way
It's
to.
sort of that idea, right? You don't have a good way to do things. Like in this case, if you look back here, I've got a sucker, I've got a deburring tool, and it's got some places where I can put some extra knives when I go buy them in the whole thing. This is kind of kicked over at the moment because this is a little this is a little unsettling on it because this is not designed for that. That's really supposed to be for the little files and things for getting into stuff. And I'm like, well, maybe I can use that for a while until I figure out really what I want. And for instance, this thing here is going to go right. I haven't glued it together yet. That's why it came apart. That's what I was in the middle of doing when my turn came up. That thing there's going to go right there with one right behind it. So I'm going to pick up my tweezers, my stuff, whatever it is. I should be able to get it, most of the stuff, and I can find what I hope is going to happen is over a time, all of the stuff up here is going to be stuff I use every day. Everything else that I need that's near stuff will end up going down into the drawer and get some of that kind of stuff. He even has where did the vitamins go? Oh, they're not here. So he had a couple more things I thought were cool. So somebody got up and did a Dremel tool thing because I got a bunch of this crap laying around, and I bet you most of you do too. And you might have a box that's like 10,000 times bigger than what this is, and this will hold every one of the tools you have possibly, that sort of thing. Then he designed a ton of these. These are parts pins. They fit right into the Gridfinity thing, right? They're curved. And they're big enough so you can get one finger in there to pull out a part to do some stuff. And of course, this is parametric too. You need a bigger bin for a bigger thing, and need fewer of them, but longer one of them. It's got it where you can design it and print it out. My printer over here, that's now, as I got reminded, I started building 6 years ago on July 1st over the weekend. And I've modified it since too. It'll hold 4x5 of one of these grids straight up, so you can cover a lot of space real fast. And so anyway, I've been printing stuff. I've been figuring some stuff out. Some stuff I don't like, some stuff I do. He got up and wanted this thing for his caliper, so he just printed one there. And of course, it doesn't. This is not exactly the same caliper, so it holds onto it a little bit tighter than I want it to. Then a little sanding, or I reprint it a different way, and then ways it comes out. I thought this was really neat, and I am not the world. Yes, I'm the world's worst organized person, but I don't think I'm the only world's worst organized person. And so I figured I would share this with all of you fine folks. The other thing is, I met John Swindle yesterday. He came to the improving event, and we had a nice chat about stuff, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, John's a wonderful person.
Yeah. Donna showed up too, by the way. Donna showed up too. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How's she doing? We haven't seen her here in a long time.
She seemed to be doing well.
Yeah.
I other than the casual observance of her eating, barbecue and dessert and all that kind of stuff, that's about all I could really tell you. Seemed to move around and all that kind of time. So
Yeah.
there was that kind of deal. And,
Donna who?
Donna Smith, isn't it?
I forget her last. I don't get me.
I
Donna,
think it's Smith.
nice lady, yay, tallish, gray hair at the point in time. long, kind of down.
Mm.
Yeah, I'd
She's
recognize her if I saw her again.
She's been in our, she's been to this meeting a lot of times early on.
Is
She haven't
from
seen her.
Seattle?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
You know,
Oh.
we did, you know who we're talking about.
Yeah, that done. Oh, I thought she was. So she was in Dallas for.
I guess she was in,
Was she in Dallas?
yeah, she was in Dallas. She was here. Now, it was Donna something or another, and I don't know, but I knew she was involved with the DPRG at some point. But it
Yeah.
wasn't the Donna that I've seen on here from Seattle.
Oh, it wasn't.
No,
It
it
was
was
another
not.
deal. No, okay.
Oh,
Okay.
All right, now I'm confused.
Yeah, I was gonna say, boy, that must have been a special meeting for her to travel. all
Oh
the way
yeah,
from Seattle.
or something else going on that we don't need to know anything about. But that's a whole different story, right? I'm just teasing. I don't really know anything other than they had barbecue and enjoyed themselves. So anyway, that was what I've been kind of doing and trying to get my desk cleaned off. And as far as one other thing, is it there? So John was talking about. Let me open this up on my Fusion here.
Yeah, Harold, my organization is using the 6 foot by 3 foot white plastic Walmart tables. There's one behind me
Yeah.
that's maxed out, and then one over here, which actually blocks off my access to it. Jack and Jill bathroom, but I can still get to it from the other bedroom. So
I know that organizational methodology well.
that's, you know.
The other thing that I in the middle of the way John K was showing that been working on this, and I'll work on this some more tomorrow on my stream. But this is that robot head, and so what I've done is I was playing on the stream, and I decided, and I didn't check the weight too much, so this I'm hoping I can fix it in software, so to speak. But if you'll look right there, the head, I've started putting in places to hold on to the hold on as you just put in the SR04 in there for that. The Arduino Nano and its expansion board, I'm hopefully with enough of that slipping right down into that is enough to hold on to it and do the good work on it. But we'll see how far it actually comes out. I'm expecting that once I actually print these out, there'll be enough ridges and other things and that kind of stuff and inconsistencies to work as kind of do some friction stuff on it. And so the LN298 I'm going to put on the back side of this thing, and that's what we'll be spooling up tomorrow and throwing all that stuff in there. Soon all that stuff in there. And so we can slide that down in there too. And I do have to, I've gone through and done some things like, do I have that turned on or off? I modeled up a few things in there and turned on, is Origin? No. You know, I've done this kind of thing where I've block modeled things. So I got like the thickness is easy enough to do, and the shape is easy enough to do of the various expansion boards, and make sure that I get clearance and all of these. Now I need to do that to the servo. So when the servos come in here, I'm thinking right in the middle of this thing, the big old battery is going to stand up straight and tall on this, and that's I'm not really digging that, but I think that's better than having it. It probably should go sideways, but I don't know how a good way for me to put that in sideways in a decent fashion yet. So I'm sure there'll be 2 or 3 models of these things, because at the very least, I don't want it to be flat and have that moment arm away from the center of gravity any more than or center of the robot anymore. At least that's just me thinking about it. I'm not really reading too much about how you're supposed to do balance spots. But anyway, that's me playing on that, and that's what I've been playing on the whole thing. So the next time we meet, you'll probably be seeing at least one of the first prototypes of that. So
That's looking good. I'm free to get that printed. I found something else. I'll throw this out. Because I'm like, not it. So let me
and as far as what it's going to do and how it's going to do, the fact that it doesn't fall over, and then I
But
can,
that would be interesting.
and
I've
then I
always
can
thought
go,
too
I
that
can do this number
would
at
be
the front of the
interesting.
robot and have it back up on me. You know, if I push it, that kind of stuff. That's about all. That's about all I expect out of this guy.
So from 2 to 4, I think 4, there's this one. And actually, they got this even better description going on this thing. So I've seen, that design before.
Yeah.
So, okay. So this one looks like they went into a very good description down here. I mean, they go into the tools, nice little drawing here. So,
So it's got forward motion and torsional kind of motion on that thing.
yeah, that's
Oh,
why I
that's
said it
cool.
looks interesting. I mean, it looks like they did a very good job of laying it out. So you can see here the picture of that. And there's assembly of the legs, electronics. And then there's that.
Big.
But yeah, this it's definitely more printing, but it looks like they have gotten this well laid out. It's well described. So we talk about the shoulders and movement and custom parts to it.
Oh, and it's using those cheap controllers that always come in every kit you ever got. No one ever uses. That's awesome.
So yeah, so yeah, it looks like they got this one well laid out. So I'll run the video at the top.
Because I've seen
So-
a few. I've seen a few of these. I say low cost, at the lower end of these four-legged bots and that kind of stuff.
Right.
That I'm interested in doing some of that.
Yeah, well, this one basically using the 2 reel with two editions. Like, and this one is less well documented than that. It's well printed. So I'm thinking, this is definitely one that might work well.
That's like a dog when you're throwing him in the water and hadn't quite hit the water yet.
Yeah. So far, this looks like the best one out there I've seen document wise on that, and well structurally.
Oh, and I like that split thing where it set itself down. That's real nice. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think, because if you look at when Bruton does his and a few others, they're spending thousands of dollars on one of these things. Oh, you just 3D print the part. Yeah,
Well.
you just spend 10 kilograms of filament to print your robot. And it's just like I don't know if you just 3D print it.
Well, this
Right?
is definitely, definitely cheaper than that. Whatever that dog one that they have out there.
Yeah, but that feature of being able to do the elbow thing, that's pretty intriguing because almost all the high end bots or all the high end stuff that I've seen do that know how to do that, so they can do this sidestep thing if they need to do that and that kind of stuff. That's a good feature to have.
Yep. So this may be worth the printing. As I said, let's nicely lay out here.
Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, John, I am not even going to look at that link other than what you're showing because I don't need any further distractions.
I know it's a distraction from the other one, but
I'm going to finish what I got now. I'm going to
do
do
the
some
first
more,
one.
I'm going to do
and
some
then
more
this
talking
one's for
heads and
next
some
year.
other stuff. And when I ask you, just keep that handy though. When I ask you, what about that four-legged thing that was done on the lowdown? I'll have to be asking for that.
Originally what I was seeing out there was just one leg, but it's how they have this arm link system built into it now. And it actually looks to me like that's a better strategy for it. It gives it more power. You don't have your weight down here. There's benefits to this design.
Oh, I forgot two things. This is all about me, and I'd like to. You folks are part of this too. Effectively, today at about 10:35, I got awarded an MVP. So I'm now Microsoft MVP for another year, and me being here and talking to you fine folks are part of that effort, right? Are part of that effort. And the events that we do and tracking those kind of things, because I do track this. Hey, I was here. We had this many people, those sorts of things. And we talked about these things. And the other thing that what was the second thing? I had it happened first. Oh, I'm now part of Live Coders. So I try to do this every time. Currently, the people who are coding on this are not so grand, but it's a Twitch team, which I've only known of a couple of them, and there's about 187 of us, 188, something like that, that are kind of banded together that send people to each other. And it's all coding and all making and all this sort of thing, as opposed to the next game thing somebody's going to cool game thing they're going to be playing. So we're all sending each other to tech people, that kind of stuff. I now remember that too. And I thought that was cool, at least in my world.
Great.
Yeah.
Great, Harold.
Oh my word! But I mean, that's nothing. I mean, I guess I can keep on talking, but that's about all I really had. I really wanted to show you the Gridfinity thing because I thought it was really cool. And Zach has, if you go onto YouTube and look up Gridfinity, and actually there's off the Hackaday link I gave you, there's a YouTube video for that. Now he has a second one out there, and he goes into much more detail in a much more funnier fashion and entertaining thing about how people set all this stuff up and where to do and how he came to these things. It's really pretty cool. So I'm going to play with it till it doesn't work for me anymore, I think.
I have a question.
Okay.
I know last week I wasn't able to attend, but I watched some of the video on YouTube. I talked about IDEs, or Arduino alternative IDEs, and I just wanted to know what is. I'm using Genie as along with Arduino, and it's kind of neat. But what is it as far as IDEs y'all prefer? I know this might be a little late to talk about this, but what's an IDE that y'all prefer over the other ones?
Oh, the IDE that we prefer over the Arduino IDE,
or to work
all
with
of them,
Arduino?
all of them.
Yeah, I heard you say that last week, so I'm just.
No, I would think if you get, in my opinion, if you get Visual Studio, install some extensions, and configure your Arduino IDE to tell it you're using an external editor to do this thing, I think that would take you a long way. Now, there's some other folks that want to do other things, and it's fine because there's the I/O guys that are out there, and that's great. But I think that would take you a very long way. And in fact, if you really didn't want to go get all that, if you get you something like Notepad++, and then tell your Arduino to not do its, then you get an external editor, that would still be better than the current Arduino IDE.
Well, like I said, I'm doing that with the Genie IDE or editor, whatever you want to call it. It's a Linux deal, and it's pretty kind of cool. And so I just want to know y'all's opinion. So you got two Platform IO and Visual Studio.
And Visual Studio has a thing, and they've got some other junk, there's some other stuff in there that you can pay money for extensions. I mean, unless you just got a whole lot of money, you don't have to pay for extensions to get a better user experience in coding this stuff up. You don't have to.
I'm thinking free.
Oh yeah, I like that price too. I like that price too a lot. Yeah. And so, yeah, those are a couple things. The Platform IO is great, and Visual Studio with the right extensions on it is great. And there's some other stuff out there that I'm sure that's will work great too, but I'm not aware of very much more than that. I think anything, literally anything.
Oh, absolutely.
Other than the Arduino IDE is good stuff.
So hands down Platform IO because it gives you the same gives you access to the same, huge collection of libraries, right? That's what the Arduino IDE was good at. That's about it, right? And so Platform IO gives you that same thing. Oh, you need a library for this? Okay, boom, here it is. You don't have to worry about where it comes from. It's just there.
Right. Yeah, how I went, Mike, was okay. So I started out with Arduino IDE, quickly found it had a lot of problems. So I went to what was at the time Atmel Studio, which was Atmel Studio when it was owned by Atmel. It was pretty good. And it worked well with a third-party add-on called Micro, I believe, and they work really good for Arduino. Okay, then Visual, when Atmel Studio was taken over by Microchip, they put their own. They went from a GCC compiler to their own microchip crapola. And now everything that used to take half a second to compile now takes 30 minutes or something. It just I'm exaggerating, but I hate it. So that broke me off of that one. I think Visual Studio, I like the features in it, but I don't know how to set it up as to be as versatile as Visual Code. Visual Code is with Platform IO is what I'm using now. Now it does require some changes in the way you do some things, but once you get it set up, I think you'll enjoy it a lot. For example, you never have any more INO files. You don't screw with that. Everything is either a C++ file or an H file. And like Chris said, you can get that in its default mode. You just look up the library. If it's a standard Arduino library, it'll just load in. Okay, now I found myself that work kind of halfway, and I often have to import my own libraries into the library section of code, Visual Code, Platform IO setup. But that's just a minor problem. And after Chris gave me what is it, Chris, to get to the previous location, Shift Alt or something?
Alt left arrow.
Yeah, Alt left arrow. Once I learned that, my biggest complaint with that program is overcome. One of the nice things about it is with the add-ons, it can be integrated into Git and everything. So if you know a little bit of how Git works, then it's pretty intuitive on how the add-on works. It's not as visual as some of the visual Git things like let's see what this one is. Like source tree. It's not quite like that, but it does work real well. And Carl has said that he'd be willing to have a session on doing that. We might want to talk him into that. Yeah. I think, but if you just want to try visual, this is all free. So, at the end, you can always click it and delete it. Go in and do Visual Basic, Visual Code, download it, then put Platform IO on it, and then open a new project. Now, you just pick Arduino and see if that works for you. Like I say, it works more traditionally like a C program in the sense that you don't have INOs. You have you would start off with a main.cpp, and that's what we would put your INO file content into that.
Yeah, I got to correct myself. Every time I was saying Visual Studio a minute ago, I was really talking about Visual Studio Code, like Doug was talking about, and I use it. I use those two tools so interchangeably all the time in my day-to-day work. I sometimes forget that I need to
Yeah.
be more specific.
Yeah, let me ask you this, Harold. Do you use it without Platform IO?
Currently, when I'm doing my my coding up for Arduino and stuff, I normally just use it without Platform IO and have it set in have the Arduino IDE just running in the background, but and have it and say I'm just like I just said, put me in put in the mode where I'm going to edit outside you and you just watch for changes, and then when changes come along, it'll pick them up and you hit the go button. And I haven't really looked at the extensions in a while because most of my coding these days have been on a Raspberry Pi and not on an Arduino.
Yeah.
Kind of thing doing it.
Chris, are you using Platform IO?
Usually, yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Like I say, I use Platform IO, and the nice thing about that is if you suddenly want to go to another board or chip, like let's say you wanted to go to an ARM chip, when you start up your project, you just find that thing, and it'll have it all set there, and you just bring it in.
So that's Visual Studio Code with
Platform IO.
IO added to it.
Right. So, and as the bare minimum, I think that's all you need. Now, probably the next thing I would do is get the Git library, and that adds Git functionality to it. So you can go out to GitHub and leave your repository there.
Okay.
But
So,
those,
like I said, I'll give it a shot because, like I said, right now I'm using a program called Genie, which is it comes free. It comes default with Linux a lot.
mm-hmm.
But you have to open up you have to turn on the open up the Arduino IDE and of course tell it to go external.
Yeah.
But it's got to run in the background, and you do all your editing in that Genie, which I do like it because it's got some pretty cool little, I can see all the variables and all those things on the side.
Mm-hmm.
And it changes colors, all of the text or color coded and all that stuff.
Okay, now I will say one little trick here that you might run into. In Visual Code with Platform IO, it's more like a C or C++ environment. Okay, it's not Arduino. And unknown to most people, Arduino does some weird things in the background to make it simpler, which you would have to do a little differently in Visual Code. The biggest one that's probably going to catch you is, let's say you have a subroutine or a function. I guess they call it a function. Yeah, okay, so they have a function, and there's two things that you can either do. You can either put the function in the top of the code, but that doesn't, but somewhere along the line, you have to have it's better to put your functions in a different file and have the product have an H file with prototypes in it. And if the function is never going to be used outside of the other functions that are in the file, then you leave it in C++. And if they're going to be used by all the other programs, so let's say you had a motor controller like set speed or something, where it's going to be used all over the place, you would have a prototype in the H file, and you include the H file. So what I'm saying is, in Arduino, what happens, you don't need any prototypes, because everything is really one big file. Even if you have 5 different files, they're all one big file.
Well,
and
see, I don't have any C++ experience. All I have is Arduino C. So, how big of a learning curve is that for me to jump on to?
No, you're going to think you're in except for the fact that there's two things. One, at the top of the file, of your main file, you have to have Arduino.h, you know,
Right.
include pound sign, include bracket, Arduino.h bracket, which you don't have to have in the Arduino environment. Then you have to have your, like I say, your function prototypes need to be up. I usually put them below my globals if I'm doing it. Okay, so if you had let's say you had a function that was called set speed, and let's just say you only were using one file, that would be main. Well, you probably have your function down at the bottom after you're set up and looped. You'd have your function down at the bottom. Well, the way it works, it won't see that function because it's not introduced to it, so you get a compiler error. So you have to put a prototype, which is simply the first line of your subroutine, has to be put up on the line, and you have to put a semicolon on the end of it.
So to see it during the initial setup or whatever.
Right, yeah, when it comes down,
Right.
the compiler, it runs into the prototypes and then compiles.
What the level of coding I'm at right now is I put my variables. I just put them at the bottom of this sketch, and you know that's what I've been doing. And so because hadn't been very big, you know, like line following kind of stuff, I just put the variables down there. But that's just the way I've been doing it. I don't know if it's right or wrong. I've seen it in a book like that. So,
yeah. Well, you know, maybe that's another subject we can go through. You know, we can go through some just basic how to format your program.
right.
Just really basic ins and outs. You know, I'm a self-taught programmer, so I'd hate to say the way I do it is gospel, but I do have a way.
Well, I'm sure you do. You've read and learned through error too. I'm sure.
Yeah. So, you know, maybe that can be something we can talk to on a special meeting offline, so not everybody has to go to it.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm not really asking you to talk about it. I'm just saying that's what to do.
But I'm going to tell you what, I wish somebody had done this for me. There was a gentleman, Richard Nouveau. He's still a club member, but he's not been active because I think he's been very ill. And he spent time with me, and if it wasn't for him, it would have been taken me many more months to figure out what was going on. But and like I say, I can show you. You know, we can meet offline and set up a meeting and see if anybody's interested, and then just go over, do it all on Zoom.
Like take a sample, a small program and kind of
Just
kind of
go through the whole thing. Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool. And you do it the C++ format.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm not going to show you how to use classes and everything, but I will show you basic. I guess you'd call it bastardized C because it's, you know, it'll fit real well with your Arduino style.
Right.
But just
Okay.
you know, okay, I'll put out a message, a list. I've taken that as an action. I'll put a list, and we can meet on some day, you know, at 7:30. And if anybody's interested, they can join.
Cool.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Like I said, I wish somebody had helped me more when I was starting. I mean,
I don't know, Doug, if one thought I have is that maybe we could use that on the monthly meeting type thing.
well, like I said, I think it might, you know, for somebody like Chris, that's not going to be a very use.
Right, I know.
Or Raj,
That's why I was
they're not
thinking.
going to find it very useful. But
No, but for like a monthly meeting, I agree, you know, every night. And I don't know if Chris does the monthly meeting thing, but and we could actually have it at the makerspace.
I think I'd kind of like that, to be honest with you.
At the makerspace?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that way I can kind of ask questions and stuff, and
And that's why I was thinking about maybe one would fit nicely well into that.
Well, I'll send out a message and we'll see what people respond. You know,
right.
You guys have to remember, for me to go over to the makerspace at $4.50 a gallon is,
Notice I said monthly, me too, not daily. I agree. I only 5 miles away, so in my case, it's yeah. It
Well,
counts.
yeah, I'm a Fort Worth guy, so you know it.
it's not the gas, it's the dang tolls. You know, I pay more in toll than I do gas, but they're getting close now. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Okay, I'll send out a message. Okay, anybody else got anything? I see a head shaking sideways.
I just want to add that I've almost uninstalled Visual Studio Code a couple of times because I just cannot get it to work with my Arduino stuff. So maybe you'll show me.
Yeah, I can do that because I compile my programs on that all the time, and there's no issue. And it's really nice because if you look at the list of boards that you can use, it's a humongous. And so, like, let's say you like an ESP 8266, I think it is. Let's say you like to do that one. Well, you can find out you can use an Arduino environment with it. You can use more. Well, I don't know if they have Luna on that one, but there's a couple of different options that you can have. I mean, it's really nice.
I think it's just missing a configuration step. Whenever I try to run it, it says, oh, well, you got to tell me what's going to do this. I don't know what my choices are.
Okay, well, we can start off, and just go through it.
But I love the editor.
Okay.
Visual Studio ever since it became Visual Studio. I just am really used to that editor.
Yeah.
Primary Visual Studio.
Yeah. Yeah, I like, I'm old fashioned. I like, for example, one of the things that's taken me a lot to get used to is the dark colors in the environment. I mean, I used to use it now, but when I first started, I was used to seeing everything in white with dark letters, and then all of a sudden it went dark background.
Can't you just change that in the configuration?
You can, but I wanted to. There's some advantages to the dark. It's not as straining.
Sure. I just can't get used to that in any of these programs.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, like I say, that is just a configuration, Julie. All right. Well, if nobody's going to talk, I'll go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Hey, Harold, turn off the recording.
I don't know how well I got into this recording, but I'll be happy to send whoever.
Okay,
Whatever.
thank you. And I'm gonna